beautiful souls. This is Dr. Lisa Medhus, and with our beautiful Veronica Drake, awesome psychic medium, the voice of my son. Her information will be on the screen and in the description box below. Now, before I start, I want to say if you haven't already, please consider donating to our documentary for Paula Marino. Could use a little extra money to finish with the illustrations, the editing, etc. Just go down to in the description box below and you'll see channelingericdoc.com. And there's the trailer there. It's very impactful. I really urge you, even if you don't donate or buy merchandise or whatever, just watch it. It will change your life. Well, I don't know if I'll go that far, but anyway, it's very impactful. All right, we have a wonderful man that we are going to interview today, Pope Francis. And are you Catholic,
I
Veronica?
am. I
I
am.
was raised Catholic too, myself. My great uncle was Cardinal of Spain, believe it or not, but he wasn't Pope.
I'm
So,
I'm a convert. I actually chose
oh
Catholicism.
wow, that's awesome. All right, so we're gonna give you a little bit, and I want to say hi and I love you to my son Eric, who is on the other side. Hi, sweetheart.
He does this.
Oh
Hello.
wow, really?
Very dignified. Hello.
Oh, okay. So, Pope Francis was head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City State from the March 13th, 2013 until his death 2025. He died on my birthday. He was the first pope to be a Jesuit, whatever that is, the first Latin American, the first from the Southern Hemisphere, and the first born or raised outside of Europe since the 8th century Syrian Pope, Syrian really, Gregory III. Wow, that's a lot of firsts, Mr. Pope Francis. How are you doing? Do you see him?
He, I do see him. He's very, I will say, subtle and very, he's larger than life.
I
And
bet.
while he's subtle and quiet, there's an interesting, and I say this lovingly and not in a facetious way, a mischievousness about him, like a
Really?
fun mischievousness.
Oh, I would not have thought. Well, that is really cool. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. Of course, we have questions from the community, but if you don't feel comfortable answering some of them, then that's perfectly fine, obviously. All right, we'll start. My brilliant community has questions for you, sir. Number one, was it difficult for you to advance the church toward living Jesus's truth?
As I'm sure you are aware, anything with the church can be difficult.
Yeah.
This institution is rock solid. Think of how hard it is to push a boulder uphill.
Oh,
Think about how you can do it, but you must pace yourself. These walls, these push, 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 and get nowhere, are to protect the control of the church. And you have to remember one thing: Jesus didn't come to control us. He
no.
was not about control, he was about liberation.
Mm, nice.
Deepest struggle was not in knowing the truth, but in finding ways to push uphill without being crushed by it. Let me show you, Erik says, as if he's pushing the truth out, pushing the truth out. He had to be very careful that it didn't come back and roll over him.
Oh,
So yes, it was difficult moving.
what is he wearing?
Very casual. It's a very just almost like a flowing white garment, and there's like a gold colored belt, almost like a rope, but not quite a rope. And
Okay.
he's just very modest looking.
Oh, okay. What do you think about now that we have a American Pope? What do you think about that? Leo the 14th.
I think that he will pick up in his own right where I left off. He is about serving the people. He is about giving a voice to the voiceless. He will serve you well in the sense that he is assimilated in living in the world, but not of the world. people will relate to him, and it's no coincidence. He was chosen at just the right time. Had he been chosen at an earlier time, a version of him, it would not have served because the people's minds were not as open and not as ready.
Interesting. Well, as you know, the Vatican is in deep debt, and there's been so much money laundering, um, embezzling, and it's just been awful. And I think you were brought in to help with that, but I think the debt tripled under your rule, not by fault of yours, but because it was just the deep swamp component. Just, and I think they brought Leo the 14th in because he's an administrator and he's from America. And so maybe the finances will flow in more. Americans are richer than some of these poorer regions that they could have chosen a pope from, and they could receive more donations, etc. What do you think about that aspect of choice of Leo the 14th?
Absolutely. His academics are second to none. His ability to scrutinize the numbers. But first and foremost, before we can inflate the numbers, we have to get the ship in order. He's referring again to getting the house in order. He says things have to be moved around and changed. And as Pope Leo becomes more familiar with the structure, and he'll learn what goes here and what goes there. Watch for some pretty magnificent changes internally coming from him.
The corruption has got to be rooted out, just like we're doing in our own country.
It will not be as severe, but it will trickle and the light will be put on it, he says.
Someone wants to thank you for trying to dismantle the Opus Dei, Dei, and the power that Pope John Paul II gave them. What are your thoughts on this sect? Let me see what it is. It is an institution of the Catholic Church that was founded in Spain in 1928 by blah, 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 with the mission to help its lay and clerical members seek holiness in their everyday occupation and society. The group is considered controversial, has criticized for having cult-like qualities, basically. So, what do you think about that sect?
Part of my mission was to temper its influence,
Oh,
not because I wanted to punish them, but because my primary interest has always been protecting the heart of the church from manipulation, from greed.
mm. Was
It's
it?
hard to pluck the roots that run deep, and the deep roots require deep, deep reform.
Yeah.
This is something I started and something that will happen gradually over time. As we live in a world where more is visible to all, you will begin to see the extraction of the roots as is appropriate. Secrecy has run its course.
All right, so as you know, we're going from the era of Pisces, the more masculine domination uh, reign, to what is it now? Aquarius, yes, Aquarius, where it's more feminine, more unity instead of competition and stuff. So my question is, because of this new age, will there ever be a woman pope?
Of course, the time will come when the church opens its heart and its doors to the feminine. It is not now, and it will not be for some time, but it is on its way. As you see the walls open and the heart of the church become more and more exposed, you will see feminine energy at the lead.
Oh, I hope so. Where do we as Catholics go from here so that we are in alignment with God's will and to live as Jesus taught? So where do we go from here? Where do Catholics go from here?
It is true that you return to the Christ, but not the polished figures that you see so beautifully portrayed in print and in paint, but back to the radical, teachings back to the radical life of Jesus Christ as he walked the earth,
Mm.
barefoot, feet on the ground. And if you understand this, you will know what heaven is. You must live as he lived, simple, direct, and fiercely loving.
Oh, fiercely loving. Now, Mr. Pope, Pope Francis, did you feel trapped in the rigid conservative structures of the Vatican and the Catholic Church, which often fear change? Did you feel trapped by the push against change?
Trapped is a severe word, but yes, I understand what you're saying. I felt confined. I also understood and forgave it, but I never gave up quietly, persistently pushing the line. Sometimes the work of reform is not about screaming it, it's about the slow, intentional drip that gets the mission accomplished. And he's very slow and methodical
Yeah,
as he talks.
interesting. So, what do you think about President Trump and what he is doing in the USA? I think you were quite liberal and he's quite conservative, so I'm going to gulp first.
I will say this, he has both the brilliance and the brokenness.
Hmm.
He is a true reflection of a nation when it comes to being human.
Wow.
Taking away what kind, he awakens the passion for better or worse. No leader is above the collective energy that calls them forth. He is truly on a mission. And whether people like it or not, he is interpreting the call as he is hearing it.
Yeah. Well, people say that he was saved by God with that bullet and that he was brought in by the divine. And I think he was brought in maybe to sort of break things down so that they can and start to rebuild them. He's more of a disruptor, I think. What would you say to that?
Your president is not a mistake. It is not a mistake for many reasons, but the fact that he was put here twice
Yeah.
and more. Was he saved? Of course he was. It was an attempt to get the attention of all.
Mm.
It was not for the theatrics and the drama. Of course, as a human, he can come with theatrics and drama just like all humans.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it was the wake up moment that was needed for many. Like this man or not, he is driven and guided by the higher power.
Mm.
Remember, everything is subject to interpretation.
Right. Including his interpretation. Yeah. I think it made him more religious. I made him now he's trying to put religion back into our lives, etc. So you don't have to
Have to
comment on
be
that.
careful with trying to force. You can't force feed a people that aren't ready for it.
Of
You
course.
must be patient and tolerant. And like my silent but consistent pushing of the agenda would be the way to go. He too will learn that.
Okay. Will you please ask Pope Francis about Pope Paul the First, John Paul the First? He only served 30 some days and died, I think, in 1979. There were always rumors he was poisoned, murdered because he was trying to reform the Vatican. Is that really true? Well, Eric, you might have to answer this. I don't know. Maybe he was supposed to have died of a heart attack, but it was reported that maybe he was really murdered, poisoned, or whatever.
Um, so Erik says yes. And it wasn't just the physical taking of his life. What is he trying to show me? There was an outside influence on his death, but it was also the weight of what he intended to expose.
Oh.
Eric, a little bit more clarity. The pressure of what he knew um, that would threaten the system got to him. Oh, Eric says, like a heart explosion.
So he did die of a heart attack?
Yes, but was also, um, um, Eric says, was also influenced by an outside source.
But maybe the
So
stress
yes,
from an outside source. And
in other words, I'm hearing this and I'm interpreting it as something caused the heart attack outside of him,
oh,
coupled with the stress of what he knew.
was it poison that caused the heart attack and the stress, of course? Because I mean, that can happen.
It was something systemically, is what Eric
Okay.
is saying, that ran through the
Poison.
whole body. So perhaps it was
Sounds
poison.
like it. All right. Pope Francis, do you still believe in what you were taught and then taught yourself now that you're on the other side?
He's doing this like very methodical, and the reason I'm looking is Eric's Pope's over here, Eric's over here, but he
Oh,
dances
yeah.
here. So I apologize for that, but
No,
I
I love it. Love it.
my mind's eye can see them.
Yeah.
Pope's over here, and he's going like this with his hands, like he's very pensive looking. I would say mostly, yes, I believe in it. My
Okay.
faith evolved as I evolved as a human. I outgrew some of it, but I always believed in my heart to the core the gospel of mercy, justice, truth, and radical compassion. If you take away everything else and you keep those cores, that's what it is to believe.
Did you ever feel the presence of Jesus around you?
Oh, always. Oh,
Oh, wow. Have you met Jesus now? I mean,
yes.
your death?
I met Jesus as a living.
Oh, wow.
We all have the potential to meet Jesus as a living. Jesus is a frequency. It is a feeling. I met him when I wept for the downtrodden,
Mm.
comforted me as I felt helpless in trying to bring light to the situation of the downtrodden. I felt like I could never do enough. And in my most dark hours, Jesus wrapped me in his love and his
Mm.
mercy and assured me.
That is beautiful. Were you Pope at the time?
Sometimes yes,
Okay.
and sometimes no. This has been lifelong for me.
Okay. Oh, cool. Were there major changes to church doctrine that you wanted to make but weren't able to do so for whatever reason? Name one change, for example, that you really wanted to do, but it didn't happen.
I wanted to open the door to women.
Hmm.
I wanted to open the door to equality.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
wanted to plant the seeds. I hope on some level the seeds that I did plant will take root.
Awesome. What more did you wish to accomplish during your papacy that you weren't able to?
Eric says this will be right up my alley.
Oh,
Uh, I wanted to simplify the church, he said.
oh,
Wanted to go back to the barefoot Jesus,
wow.
walking along, telling the parables, living gospel. I wanted less fancy, less frilly, more bread, more substance, less hierarchy,
Big
restored
hat.
proximity between the priest and the people, between the church and Christ. We had gotten lost. We had gotten off track as a people. I ran out of time,
Yeah,
and it was hard to get the permission.
yeah, I bet. Is it true that you were taught to hate Jews when you were a child? Ooh, you don't have
Hate
to answer that if you don't.
be the right word. I was silenced. That would be the word, silenced. I was
Okay.
shaped by a system. Remember, the system that favored us over them. We grew up in those times.
Mm.
I repented. I sought reconciliation every step of the way. It's one thing to be born into something and another thing to continue on, even when your everything inside of you tells you it's wrong. I repented. I suggest that you all walk away from what doesn't feel right in your lives.
Yes, and repent. Uh, do you know what happened to the Italian teenager in Emmanuela Orlandi who disappeared from Vatican City in June 1983? Never found. Wow. Eric, you might need to help on this. Is she on the other side?
Erik says yes, telling me that she was a casualty of the dark.
What exactly happened? Was she murdered?
Within the Vatican walls and without. This was Erik saying over here, he's telling me to listen to him. The
Okay.
Pope is, and I mean that respectfully, the Pope is not answering this. This is Erik. I want to be clear.
Okay, right.
Um, there is foul play, and there was a cover up, and there was complicity, Erik says, on part of the church. We can't look at the church as the whole problem, or when I say the church, he says the people in the church.
Right.
This is a complicit act by those within and without of the Vatican. And the problem is, Erik says, it all boils down to greed and money.
Was
What
she forced
happened to
Catholic?
that
Oh, good.
poor girl
Yeah.
shouldn't happen to anybody, but unfortunately, it's happening as we speak, Erik says.
Was she sexually abused? Is that what you're saying?
One of the many things, yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's talk more about that. Now, this is a question from the community, so don't hurt the messenger. Some people say that you were personally involved in harming children, or that you had direct knowledge of others who harmed children, but you kept quiet. Did you harm children or silence those who, or uh, kept the secret of those who did?
I certainly was not a perpetrator,
Okay, I didn't think.
but the system was putrid.
Mm.
It was riddled with rot. And if I'm guilty of anything, and there's tears coming from him,
Oh,
if I'm guilty of anything, it's that I moved too slowly. And for
oh,
that, I take full responsibility.
mm,
Understand that silence can be a sin also.
of course. Last question for part one, because it's along the same lines. Can you ask why those priests and even nuns who have conducted offensive acts against children were never prosecuted in the court of law? I mean, why does the church protect these pedophiles? Why weren't they prosecuted?
It's sad to say this, but it protects itself. Power protects power,
Mm.
and shame disguises itself as tradition so that one can forgive themselves. This is just what we've always done.
Wow.
Many, many people still fear scandal more than justice.
Oh gosh.
That is the biggest betrayal in the church. No sacred institution should stand taller, oh, than the smallest child.
Oh, you're feeling that, aren't you, Miss V?
It's beautiful because he's very much about the children and about protection. And you can't be any bigger than how you treat a child, he says.
Oh, wow. That is so true. So, do you think Pope Leo will do something about what's going on, the putrid rot that's going on, and the pedophilia going on in the Vatican City now?
If he makes exposing the putridness his agenda, he will lose sight of what it is he's here to do. And what he is here to do is turn people back to God,
Oh,
not
okay.
the God that we know as the shiny TV God, but the barefoot
Yeah,
God who walks among us.
interesting. That's a great way to end off this beautiful part one. Oh my goodness. So I'm gonna have to listen to it again. So full of pearls and beautiful analogies, etc. So thank you, Miss V. You guys check her out in the description box below. Thank you, Eric, for helping out, and thank you, Pope Francis. Hang on, we'll be right back.